Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pizza and with me tonight is Matthew Friedman. Boggs has the day off. And of course, it's you. We're talking Thursday night football. It's going to be a rainy one here in lovely up north New Jersey, about 45 minutes or so from where I am. I can tell you it's a steady rain. It's a cold rain. It's a cold winter chill in the air. And hopefully we'll be able to line our pockets, which will make it all better and make us feel warm and fuzzy inside. Matthew Friedman's here to help us do that today. And Friedman, obviously, the first thing we got to get to is the injury report. What's going on here? Trevor Lawrence did with the toe, but that's okay. He's going to play through it. He's a champion. Anyone with that kind of hair, obviously, is just doing pretty well in life. But the last couple of games for Trevor Lawrence have been absolutely spectacular. As far as other injuries, the biggest one probably for this one is Trayvon Walker ruled out with the ankle injury. So one less pass rusher, still got Josh Allen, still a lot going on there. We know on the Jet side of things that Mike White is not going to be here for this game. And unfortunately, we're going to get Zach Wilson again. I want to hear about how good Zach Wilson was stat line wise. If you watched it, it was still pretty ugly. But nonetheless, you are going to get Zach Wilson starting Thursday Night Football. Zonovan Knight is active for tonight. Quinnen Williams will play too. A huge addition to that front. Denzel Mims out with the concussion. Corey Davis also off the concussion report for Week 16. So that being all said, let's set it up right here, Friedman. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 2.5-point underdogs heading in to the Meadowlands. 36.5 is the number, plus 115 on the money line. How do you see this board for Thursday Night Football?
I think when we talked about this on the Monday Look Ahead show, I said something like, it wouldn't surprise me if this number flipped and the Jags were favored by the time we kicked off. And in the middle of the week, that actually did happen. It flipped, and then now it's steamed back the other direction, and the Jets are favored now more than they ever were at any point up to this point in the week. And, you know, some of that maybe has to do with Cam Robinson being out left tackle, for the Jags, maybe Trayvon Walker, whatever it is. But I think some of it is maybe some misguided enthusiasm for Zach Wilson. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Maybe it's the elements. Maybe the idea is that in colder weather, rainier weather, the explosiveness that we see out of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense isn't able to really to live up to its full potential. And so that favors the Jets here at home. But I still like the Jags here. It's not a massive edge that I see them having. The number's at 2.5. I have it at 1. And so if it gets to 3, I'm betting it. I doubt it gets to 3, but I haven't bet it yet just to hold off to see if it gets there. And if it stays at 2.5, I still might bet it. But that's the way I'm looking on the side right now. I'm certainly on the Jags. I'm definitely not on the Jets because I still see a pretty significant difference between Mike White and Zach Wilson.
I think you nailed it. Misguided enthusiasm. You know, I think a little bit more time is like, oh, well, you know, things are going well for the Jets. We're in the playoff hunt. Plus, it's a New York team. I know it's the Jets, but a lot of public money, a lot of people who want the Jets to be a thing and wants them to be a playoff team right now. Let's not forget, New York is one of the biggest betting states. So when you have a lot of money coming in from a place, some of it is optimistic, as you would say. Maybe that's misguided optimism. I'm with you. I like the Jags on the money line. To me, that's the best way to make money on this game if you're betting the actual game itself. But we like to do around these parts. We like to go in through the prop market as well and pick out some of those things. And obviously, you can go to the prop bet cheat sheet over at bettingpros.com where you can get all of the projections right next to the best place to make that wager. It's right there for you. One giant cheat sheet for all the right answers. So, Friedman, let's get to some of yours here. And let's start here with Trevor Lawrence himself. 19.5 completions. Interesting number here. You've got it at points bet plus 100. And you're liking the over. Why is that?
Yeah, so I have a list of props here that might be a little bit contrarian given the weather situation that we have going on in New Jersey. And you talked about it earlier, so don't need to hit on it too much. But yeah, like steady rain coming down. Could be significant wind that picks up as the game progresses and, you know, colder weather, not like freezing weather, but, you know, like colder weather. And so I think that will probably make people in the prop market lean more on the running props and fade some of the receiving props. But so I will say, like, this is contrarian. I like Trevor Lawrence over 19.5 completions. I have this projected for, let me see where I do have it projected for.
While you're looking for that, I'm just going to chime in here for a moment. I completely agree with you. I think sometimes we make too much of these scenarios, and sometimes these numbers come far too low. And it's time to just look at that 19 and a half. I mean, that's almost like a slam dunk, I feel like, for the way this offense has been rolling, even with weather issues
Yeah,
aligned, because it's not about the length of the pass here. It's about the
exactly.
number of completions, and that's what you're trying to target here, trying to find those small numbers. So go ahead.
Exactly. So I have it at 20.4. So given that that's, plus money to the over here, I think there's value to put a little perspective on this. On Monday Night Football, the Rams who totally suck, Rams who suck with Baker Mayfield, his number was 17.5 completions. Now, granted, he didn't even come close to getting that, but that was his number in the prop market. And now Trevor Lawrence, like one of the ascending quarterbacks in the league, his number is only 2 completions higher than what Baker Mayfield had, like 3 days ago. Like that number doesn't really make a lot of sense. And you hit the nail on the head there. Like, the Jets are a really good defense. I think their pass defense is great, but they're also really strong against the run. And Doug Peterson is a smart head coach. I think he will see that the only thing like worse than having to pass against a good defense is running poorly against a good defense. And so I think they changed what they do in the passing game. And so instead of having, Trevor Lawrence throw further down the field, I think it's shorter completions that they have for Trevor Lawrence. And they use that as an extension of the running game instead of running into the teeth of a really strong defensive line here. So I understand this prop and the other props that are all correlated with it that are kind of done in the same like thesis. They could all go horribly wrong. It'll be like, oh, Matt, you went 0-5 on your props. And like, yeah, I can see how it happens.
I think you're
but I
starting
think
off
there's
good.
value here.
I like this one. I had a conversation back in the fall with one of the fellow dads who's a football coach for the Flag Football League with myself. And he played corner in college, a pretty decent one. And I asked him, I said, what's it like playing the elements and things like that? Because we had a lot of rain and stuff. He said, as a corner, he said, it's really hard. He said, because you're doing everything backwards and your footing is so much harder. He said the advantage completely goes to the wide receiver when it's raining because it's so much harder to go backwards in that. And that's something to keep in mind here. If you have a quarterback with a strong arm, that's a good thing. But something we should not overlook in this contest tonight. I see our boy Prodigy is here in the chat, feeling oozy. He's always here. How are we feeling about Garrett Wilson? He wants to know. 52.5 over in the receiving. I know it's rainy and Zach Wilson is Zach Wilson, but the Jags pass defense still ranks 29th. If there's one guy you want to look at, I know Wilson's not on your list. We'll get to the rest of your list in a moment. But 52.5, what do you think about this number? You think it's achievable tonight for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, Garrett is a guy that Garrett first name basis with him, by the way. I have him at 59.1 in my projection. So I do see some value on the over, and he was someone I highlighted in my favorites article this week at Fantasy Pros. So yeah, weird conditions and obviously not great for him to be tied to the hip with Zach Wilson in this game, but 52.5 is a pretty low number going against, as he mentioned there, a pass defense that is number 29 in the league. So good all around situation.
All right, next one on your list is Michael Carter, 10.5 receiving yards. It's a very little number there. FanDuel's got it at -110. You like the over, and why?
Yeah, I'll just say in general, like I tend to like unders on props, but I am identifying a few overs in this game. And I think this is one of those spots. I think, Michael Carter is the receiving back now. Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight really hasn't been used in that way for the past couple of games. Carter is in usage and also in efficiency, the better player in that regard. And so I do think just as we will probably see, or I'm anticipating we see with the Jags, we also see with the Jets, a little more of the shorter passing game, which I think caters to Michael Carter. And so maybe he gets a couple more targets than he normally gets. And so I think Carter, not Zonovan Knight, is the guy to think of as the passing down back for the Jets. I think he, gets to 10.5, and I have this projected, I think, for like 13, 14. Yeah.
All right. Next one on the Friedman list, Travis Etienne, the other side, under 60.5 rushing attempts. DK's got it at +110. This kind of piggybacks what you said earlier, Friedman, regarding not wanting to run up against that Jets front, especially with Quentin Williams back and healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this number is 16.5. I have it projected at 16.1. So I'm not massively far off of the market. But the thing is, with rushing props like this, like it doesn't take much for the under to hit. And like the difference between 16.5 and 15.5 or 16.5 and 17.5 is a pretty big difference when you're talking about like opportunities. And so to be on the under, knowing that a lot of projections tend towards the over anyway, and to be getting plus money on it, I do think that there's value there. And I can see the thesis for this is a Travis Etienne game. They run the ball because of the weather. But I think given the matchup they have against the Jets and given just Doug Peterson's tendencies and the fact that the offense has been running through the passing game up to this point, I think they just lean a little bit more on the short passing game and they don't run Travis Etienne as much as people might expect.
A very divisive guy this week, Zay Jones, coming off a huge couple weeks here performance, especially last week. 3 touchdowns for him. Unbelievable game for Zay Jones. He's been getting a lot of volume. You've got 4.5 receptions on the over on DK plus 125, a healthy number there as well. So are we going to see Zay Jones yet again be that guy? And are we going to see a wide receiver take advantage of this weather over these tough conditions on the corners?
Yeah, ever since Zay Jones returned from injury in week 5, so he sat out week 4 with, I think it was an ankle injury, returned in week 5. Since then, he's basically been the number one wide receiver with Christian Kirk, basically just across the board. If you're looking at targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns, their numbers are very comparable. And so I think people would tend to think, oh, Christian Kirk kind of shorter passing game, plays in the slot. Maybe if they're still throwing the ball, they go to Christian Kirk. But Zay Jones, I mean, since week 10, 14, 7, 12, and 8 targets. Like he is being used consistently in the passing game, and his ADOT, which is, let me see here, 8.6. That's actually lower than Christian Kirk's ADOT of 9.0. So if they are looking at wide receivers and they are thinking, okay, we shorten the passing game just a little bit, Zay Jones is used more in the short passing game than Christian Kirk is. And so even though he's on the perimeter, I think he's still going to be getting targets, and those shorter targets, I think, will convert into more receptions. So I have this right around 4.5. I have this projected at, I believe, 4.6. And so with the extra odds that you're getting to the over, I think there's some value there.
Yeah, Zonovan Knight, the last guy on your list, under 9.5 receiving yards on DK, getting minus 115. You're going the under on the 9.5 receiving yards. Why?
Yeah, it's all correlated with the idea that Michael Carter is the receiving back within this offense. And so I think Carter, I'm looking over for him on the receiving yardage prop, looking under on Zonovan Knight with his receiving yardage prop. I just don't think he's going to be used in that capacity.
All right, let's look ahead at some other things we've got going on here. We always like to look on the defensive side. Zach Wilson's going to give us some gems here tonight. I'm just telling you. Josh Allen to record a sack. We always like to look at the sack props. Plus 102 here on FanDuel. Like that. Cisco and Jenkins, that Jenkins boy, both these guys have 3 picks on the year, too. I'm looking for one of these guys to come up with a pick in this game. Andre Cisco, you're getting plus 450 on FanDuel. For Rayshawn Jenkins, you're getting plus 580. You don't have to throw a whole lot on this. You throw a little bit. If you hit it, it's a good day. You're getting 5 times your money, basically, somewhere between 4.5 to almost 6 on these. So that's something to take into account. Anytime touchdown score, another thing that we always like to look and play around with here. Travis Etienne plus 130, Zonovan Knight plus 150. You're getting 220 on Garrett Wilson, Zay Jones plus 340. Any of these pop out to you, or even somebody like, let's say, Evan Ingram at plus 360?
I would probably stay away from the wide receivers. Evan Ingram is a little more interesting there. And what did you say that number was? Plus.
That was the one for me too. That was plus 360.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably where I'd be going, because he's been incorporated more and more into the offense recently, and is kind of used more as a wide receiver versus like a true inline tight end. So yeah, I would probably go Evan Ingram if I were putting some money on any of those.
With the Jets front being good too, I also wonder if we kind of pull Trevor Lawrence out a little bit. Plus 550 you're getting for him on this number too. The other number that's interesting with Trevor Lawrence here, Friedman, that I was looking at earlier, 10.5 is the rushing yards for him. He has gone over that number 5 of the last 7 games. It's just putting that out there. That is a small number. We like to target some of these small numbers. What do you think about this one? It's over at points bet right now. It's, minus 140. It's a lot of juice, but perhaps you can even tease it up a little bit. But 10.5, that's a number I think on the night like tonight where things break down a little bit. Trevor Lawrence can get out. Trevor Lawrence can move. I know the toe is an issue, but still, I think he's got a little bit of upside here for that number in these conditions, especially as pockets can break down easily. Trevor Lawrence always been a good escape quarterback in college.
Yeah, I have the projection at 14.3. I tend to be a little bit weary of overs, especially for rushing for quarterbacks, because like so much can sort of skew there between like what is your projection for like mean versus median. And so like I'm probably staying away from that at minus 140. But if I had to bet it, I would say that he goes over 10.5.
All right. How about some interception props? What do you think of Zach Wilson? You got the 0.5. Seems like kind of a gimme. You want to put this up to maybe 1.5?
What's the number there?
Let's see if we can get it. I'm gonna see if I can push it up there. But as we look around here, obviously this has been a guy where we've had opportunities for the turnovers. It's something that we've seen very much. Zach Wilson right now getting minus 188 on the just to throw an interception at all on the yes. So you're not getting too much there. To get it to pump up there, I can't get it through right now. But looking at that number right now, I know over on Caesars, you're getting minus 194 on just the 0.5. So if you could push that up and cut that number to about even money, is that something that you would maybe look for some multiple picks here from Zach Wilson tonight?
I don't think so. I know that you're on, some of those Jag safeties getting interceptions, but he's played, I believe, 8 games and he's thrown interceptions in only 3 of them. Like, that's not to say that like he's done a great job protecting the ball, because I don't think he really has, but like part of it is that they haven't really emboldened him. Like they haven't used him. They haven't empowered him to throw the ball all that much. And in rainy conditions, like they might just rely on the running game and the short passing game a lot, which will limit his opportunities to throw interceptions.
If that's the case, does the 29.5 passing attempts number for Zach Wilson become more appealing? That's minus 114 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that is interesting. Let me see where I have the projection,
because
for
we
him.
have him projected on Fantasy Pros at 33.8 as an over, but 29.5. I mean, look,
29.5 is low. That's low. I have it at 31.5. So I'm kind of splitting the difference between where the prop is and where we officially have him projected. 31.5, I think, is a pretty good number there. And so 29.5, yeah, I would take the over.
All right, so give me your lock of the night. The one thing that if you're only going to make one wager on this game that you would want to go ahead. I already told you I like the Jacksonville Jaguars to win outright. I like your number there for Trevor Lawrence too as well, for the passing. Was it the attempts number I believe you had earlier, right? That seemed, I'm sorry, the completions, 19
completions over 19.5 at
I
even
really
money.
like that number. I love that, especially getting it at the even. And I like to throw a dart on one of those two guys to pick up some interceptions there on Zach Wilson, because I do think it gets sloppy out there tonight. So how about you? Anything you're feeling really good about that you want to say to the people? Hey, you got one thing to do. What is it tonight you're going to put some money on?
Yeah, I do like the Jags in general in this spot. Even if they should, quote unquote, should be underdogs, I don't think it should be underdogs of 2.5 points against a Jets team that, given their quarterback situation, really is not that good. And so I do like Trevor Lawrence over 19.5 completions, as Joe mentioned there, at even money. And I do like the Jags. If you want to do the money line like Joe's doing, that's fine. If you want to take them at plus 2.5, I like that too. I would be betting the Jets at plus 2.5. I'm going to wait a little bit more to see if, maybe at one book here or there, this number pops to plus 3 closer to kickoff. So I'm going to be waiting a little bit. If it doesn't hit plus 3, I'll probably still be betting it at plus 2.5.
There you have it. There's Thursday night football in a nutshell. If you need more help looking for more props, we got you covered. The prop bet cheat sheet is there at bettingpros.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, because we've got amazing content going all the way through the playoffs too, especially for you people who are just finding us as well, trying to recoup some of maybe those season-long losses and some fantasy teams with some injuries that just did not go your way. We're here for you at bettingpros.com. So go check us out there. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Matthew Friedman, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.